You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is the September 6, 2022 meeting of the LaPorte County Parks and Recreation Board. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
I'd like to call the Park Board for September 6th meeting to get to order. And we have a roll call.
What we do?
Yep.
Ron?
Here.
Mary Caminas? Here. Jim?
Here.
Aaron? Here. Mike?
Here.
Mary Nell? Here. Amanda? Here. Jeremy?
I'm here. Okay, can we get a motion to approve the minutes? Good. And a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. And the approval of the minutes from last meeting. Any questions or suggestions or corrections?
I move to approve the minutes.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Ayes have it. Any questions about the financial reports or comments? Looks like it's...
Yeah, you can see lots of zeros starting to show up there. So, through August, this is fairly normal. I do think this year has been exceptional in that we've spent more than we usually spend because prices of everything are up, right? So, but we have, run out of several accounts, and a lot of times we start going to our non-reverting account, which is normal for us. We can use some of that for some.
I just want to know what we're going to spend 10 cents on trail maintenance. And $1.12.
We may have to give that 10 cents back to the county. I'm sure for trail maintenance, we're not going to be able to find something to spend 10 cents on. So.
Okay, just, can I have a motion to approve the financial report as written? And a second?
Second.
All in favor? Ayes have it. Jeremy, take it away.
Okay, so under the administrative reports, update on the Cedar Woods County Park. I handed out a flyer there. We're having a grand opening. So on the 24th of September at 10 o'clock out there at Cedar Woods, parking is limited. So I've already talked to the Sheriff's Department and the Highway Department, and they've said, we're going to probably reduce that down to one lane there, and we'll have people there directing traffic around. So, but yeah, I know maybe a couple of you, I know, Mary, you've been out, right?
Oh, I've been out to the property, yes. I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to make it that day, but I've been out to the property and it's great.
Yeah. So the Highway Department helped us out with grading, and they gravelled the parking lot, and then we put parking bumpers around it to make sure people, because it kind of drops off there. And then the guys, this maintenance crew and I were out there one day putting in the gates so that, to keep people from driving through there and keep...
Wait, so where are the gates? Because I haven't been out since the...
Okay, so just in maybe 50, 75 feet in, there's a set of like cattle gates.
Okay.
That are
to prevent cars from going down that trail.
ATVs or cars or anything like that. They're wide enough for if somebody had like a motorized wheelchair or something, they would be able to get in there. It's a dirt trail, just as I said, but signage is up, or as far as the trail signage, still working on. I'm getting a map. So here's the maps. I'll pass those around. Those are, I'm going to get, nicer ones. Those are just on our printer, but I'm going to get some of those printed up for people. And I'm also printing up a metal sign, and I'll pass this around, that will be this, so that as you walk in, you're going to see that it's a little trail, and you're going to see what it looks like. We'll have a place there for the brochure, the park brochures and maps, but then we'll also have that up so that they can see that as well. So still going to work on some interpretive signage. I'm working with Derek from Nature Preserve to do some natural resource type signage and maybe some explanations of why you see what you see out there. A lot of people don't realize that property was actually, sand was harvested off of that property, which is why you see some of the hills piled up and some of the man-made low spots, wetlands and stuff. So Derek, we're going to, at the grand opening, we're going to go over a lot of that kind of stuff, but we're also going to eventually have some interpretive signage out there to explain some of that as well.
I was glad it's called the Paper Birch Trail. That's
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I thought that was a very
Good idea.
Yeah, so, and then you'll see, like, I came up with the sandbox for the sandy area,
Yes.
open sandy area, so if you can miss that, you won't miss that because the trail goes right through it. So,
And signage was very good. You couldn't get lost in there.
yeah, and the guys also put a boardwalk in over one area that you probably didn't notice it because you went in the summer.
Right, yeah.
In the spring, there's one area that was really wet, so they built a boardwalk there to keep people from getting their feet too wet, so. So yeah, I think this is, I'm hoping this will be, quite a few people will come out and see it and learn about the property and, continue to visit that. The balloon ribbon cutting, I just wanted to update, thanks to all that came out. We had, about 100 people came out to that. Some of them didn't know what was going on, but they showed up anyway and was able to participate. And we did put recently on August 9th, we put up a people counter to see how many people were going in to that playgrounds, because that was part of the grant. We said we would kind of monitor that. And just between October 9th and the end of the month, there was over 3,500 crossings across just going to the playground.
From August 9th?
August 9th to August 31st, so just in about 3.5 weeks. We're seeing a lot of, and normally a lot of times back in the day, Little probably wouldn't have had 3,500 people, go to it. So, this is pretty exciting. So yeah, good turnout, good weather, and it was a great day. Under that report as well, I just wanted to mention that we got an additional appropriation for nature center siding. So that was $40,700 to put new siding on that. RL Roofing will be doing that probably within the next couple of weeks. So that the county commissioners and council approved that in the ARP, the American Recovery Plan monies. So it's nice of them to give us that. So that'll be a nice facelift for the outside of the nature center, and it's in pretty bad shape. 5 acres at Lure. So the Park Foundation recently bought 5 acres just south of Lure, and that was privately owned, and the people wanted to build a house on. But they decided they weren't going to, and this is in a place where it was 5 acres between our new 15 acres of prairie and then a driveway. So we really didn't want a house right on top of our park right there like that. So it was great of the Park Foundation to see that and come up with the funds to go ahead and purchase that, but then what to do with it. So right now we're working on restoring that to prairie just like the rest of that 15 acres, and then eventually we'll have a trail up through there. I got with the DNR, Fish and Wildlife, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. They came out and looked at it, and they're actually going to help us with funds to pay for the prepping of the site and the seed. So I mean, we're looking at probably, I think between the two of them, we're probably looking at $5,000 to $6,000 that they're going to give us to help prep that site and plant it. So going to be a good addition to that prairie as well. Update on office hours, I just wanted to say that's working out well. The people are starting to realize that we're open on Friday now, and not too many people. We haven't had anybody really complaining. I think that we weren't open from 3 to 5, so now that we're open 7 to 3 Monday through Friday, I think everybody's going to start being all good with that. Lastly on that, I wanted to mention that the county also approved $20,000, just around $20,000 to repair and seal all the trails in the parking lot at Lure. And that should be starting probably this week, as long as we don't get any rain. I think it's actually after today, there's not much chance of rain, so I think they're probably going to start working on that either tomorrow or the next day. And in that, I also was able to get $13,000 from the Park Foundation to replace the trail that goes up to the nature center, the paved trail, because it had a lot of uneven spots and broken spots and stuff like that. So that part's already been done, but the trail sealing and repairs also will be done probably by the middle of next week. So lots going on.
Okay, thanks, Gary. Any questions on the maintenance report, construction report, programs, or park count? We did have a question of how do you count people going into the playground, but now that we have that, it makes much more sense. I wonder if there's a counter on the slide or something. Any questions on that for Jeremy?
And that'll be on the park counts every month.
Okay, great.
And that's just something, now we'll have a baseline of how many people are using that. Didn't have a baseline before, but it's a good thing to know. How many kids are using it and people are getting out to the parks.
Okay, standing committees. Executive committee, I don't think we have anything to report at this time. Budget committee?
So we went and got some additional appropriations from the county council for fuel and propane. So for fuel, we got an additional $7,000 and an additional $5,000 for propane. As you can see on the financials, we were at the zeros. So going into winter, I think it was probably a good thing to get some of that.
That's great.
Taken care of.
And I'm probably going to have to go back, not probably, I'm going to go back probably in the next month or so to try to get one for electric as well, because that's basically empty right now. So that's been an issue yearly. I mean, our electric budget is always pretty low. So.
Okay, property committee?
Oh, yes. Thank you. Yeah, I was looking at personal thing. Yeah, so with the 42 acres we're going to be adding on at Bloom, there's a public hearing that's scheduled. We heard back from the county drainage board. So August, no, that's passed. We heard from August 23rd from Christine Keel about the October 11th, 8:30 a.m. Public hearing. And so we need to get an agreement between the DNR and the landowner on that. So we're on the agenda.
Yeah. And that public hearing is for the legal drain. There's the legal drain that goes through that property. They have to vacate that before we can do anything to that. So that's what that public hearing is about. And then once, I know that DNR is working on starting the appraisal process and trying to get what the value is of that property, so we can work with the landowner and try to figure out what's going on there.
And how does that look with the landowner?
How does it look? He's willing. I mean, yeah, Mark, the landowner is willing to sell. He's not willing to give or willing to,
Yeah.
I mean, so that's, I think, where you're...
So we're optimistic.
Yeah, we're optimistic. It's not a done deal. It doesn't mean at any time he could say, you know what, I don't want to do it. But I think he sees that it's a benefit for the park, it's a benefit for the people of the county, and I think he's working. It's land that, some of it is land that he has a hard time farming because it's low and it's wet.
Right.
Other parts of it is some of this better farm ground. It's not, but it's not so big that we'd be taking a huge portion of his farm either. So not taking, I want to say taking, purchasing.
Right. Okay.
The DNR would be purchasing a smaller portion of it, so.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Planning committee? update on Red Hill and Creek Ridge playground policy?
I can do that. I got an email back from both of the playground. We have a different playground vendor for here and then at Creek Ridge, and both of them are looking at this fall for install. Things are slowed as everything is. Production of the materials are slowed and that kind of stuff. But the idea all along was to try to get through our busiest season and then probably start, installing in October sometime in there, so that we can not have them torn out when everybody has the rentals and upset kids that there's no playground at these parks. So that's the plan on that. We were, if you remember, once we finally, so we got the grant from the Healthcare Foundation, we got the county council, and they gave us the ARP money to do this project, and it was in the neighborhood of 350,000. And it took several months to get that HFL grant. So by the time that was done, I went back and said, okay, let's finalize this. And they said, the price is now $40,000 more, right? So I did get word that the Healthcare Foundation, and between the Healthcare Foundation and our Park Foundation, we were able to come up with the rest of the rest of that around 40,000 to get this, just how we wanted them. So.
And that includes the install, which is great.
Yeah. So we're not doing very little of that ourselves this time. So
Great.
good.
Rules Committee?
No, I did notice that we did get the signage on the doors for the restroom update and nicely worded. I think that will come with well.
Thanks to Kathy.
That was good.
Very good. Okay, old business. Normal business, new business. Action plans, new master plan.
So we'll have Pat Brown do some of that here.
The update from the last meeting. As you know, we decided we want to do a follow-up survey because we got some good results from the first survey monkey. In fact, we had some gaps. So Jeremy got one, Nikki and Laura at the Nature Center, and we did a second survey monkey just on programming, so we get a handle on the program needs. We got 54 responses, which, not bad. Always get more. But the takeaway was the nature staff found out, especially with COVID, it got too easy just to do programs at work because it was convenient. So through the survey, we found out that, okay, we need to go back like we did before, spread out programs along the parks, and maybe start looking at one weekend a month or maybe more on the weekends, because that's what the survey came back saying. We'd like to see programs at some of the other parks at weekends. So it was very helpful for the information. So now it's up to the nature staff to say, okay, how can we best implement some of that? Now that COVID is hopefully a little bit better, we can start looking at these type of things. So the second survey worked out well. The action plan that you have, that is, we're doing the action plan in two parts. We have the first part that you have, which is the capital improvements for all the parks. The second part that Jeremy ran copies of and hand out in a minute, that's the maintenance part. So we're looking at the implementation of the capital improvements. The park staff went through, Jeremy and the staff, looking at what needs to be done at which park and what priority should be given. And you'll see it's a very short action plan because primarily with everything being done in-house pretty much, they're targeting like one project per year at the various parks and go through. So in 2023, it's working with the grant to give the Lincoln Memorial Trail from Bloom up to Purdue Northwest. So that's the big project in 2023. 2024 is a new restroom at Creek Ridge. We just opened the one in Bloom, and great comments on that. The one at Creek Ridge, the intent is to be very similar to that, but a little bit larger. We'll have one more toilet stall for the women and the men, so it'll be 3 and 3 with a double sink in there. So it'll be slightly larger, because when you have your Pioneer Days out there, the larger restaurant will be better. Jeremy's just got soils information sent downstate to find out about the septic. So that's the first step, to see, okay, what's the state going to make you do? Very sandy soils out there. And you think sand would be good, but sand for septic, a lot of sand is not good. A little bit of sand is okay. So we got to wait and hear back from the state to see what they say and what kind of system it's going to be and what kind of cost it's going to be. So right now, that's the plan, to put it off to 2024, so we get everything lined up here in 2023 of what we need to do. 2025, the red mills, the bolt barn that's down that way. Yeah. The park staff has looked at it and said, yep, we can pick it up and move it. So they're going to move the boat barn so we can open up that whole area down there for more picnic parking, especially parking down there. Open all that up. And then they want to look at putting solar panels here on the Canada Lodge and maintenance. And so that'll be 2025. 2026, Bloom is a new picnic shelter. That's put off till 2026, because that's something that we're anticipating now that we have the new parking lot, we have the new playground, we got the new restroom. We anticipate there may be demand that we need another picnic shelter because there's only one to rent. So that's the intent, but that's the beauty of a master plan. We may find out, hey, we need to flip-flop, move that to 2025 and flip things around, move back to 2027. But we anticipate needing a second shelter. And the idea is to do a second shelter, maybe a little bit smaller, down by the maintenance building, down in that lower area, because we can actually develop a little parking down there for it. But we looked at the existing shelter and the new shelter is to make sure that either one of them could be expanded. You look at the new shelter at Laura, and it's kind of nice that you can expand a wing. So we want to make sure that if the need arises in another 5 years, that one of those shelters is expandable. That way we'd have a large one and a small one. But that's the anticipation in 2026, that there may be a need for that. 2027 is the second phase of the Lincoln Memorial Trail, going from Purdue Northwest up to Patriot Park. And that's done through a grant. That's the intent, that's the time schedule right now. One thing you will, when you look at the summary of the 5-year plan, out of the total 5-year plan, totals $4,902,600. So out of the almost $5 million, only $4,500 is out of the park budget. Everything else has been earmarked through grants, the endowment funds, Cool Spring Township. So when you look at it, a $5 million master plan, and we're only asking for $4,500 to be put into our park budget for the next 5 years. So that's pretty amazing. And that's pretty much on a track record if you go back and look at the last 5 years of all these park projects and the grants and the hospital foundation and everything else. So that's the intent. And these projects are, it's not 20 projects per year. It's 4 or 5 projects, and they're all doable. And all the funding has been preliminary and talked about what we can do. So it's very, very real that this could come through. And Jeremy did an outstanding job at only $4,500 out of $5 million. So that'll make a good impression, hopefully, with council. We go through your budgets every year and you look at that. Any questions on the improvements?
So I have a question. So in 2024, like the big project is at Creek Ridge, the new restrooms, but at Lure, the 104, I'm looking at 2024 at Lure Park.
Right.
The 104.
First three are.
You're on the maintenance?
Oh, you're on the backside. Yeah, so that's the total of Lure Park in 2024. If you add all these here.
Okay.
So that gives you the total what Lure would be. So that includes the wetland restoration of and the observation tower, installing a new bridge out to that new acreage we're talking about. And,
Oh, okay.
Restoration.
I didn't have that somewhere.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
That was a suggestion that Jeremy, when we looked back at the draft of what we had, was if someone wanted to go through and say, I'm really interested in Creek Ridge, they have to look through every page and look at this year, that year, what's being done.
Yeah.
Well, this year, that is a quick summary of what's being done in each part, each year, how much is being spent.
Right.
So,
I have another question.
Yes.
And that is, oh yeah, you talked about moving the boat barn,
the boat barn,
picking it up and moving it.
or disassembling and moving it.
Where, do you know any idea where it's moved?
It's going to move up with the maintenance, isn't it?
What was that?
The boat barn?
Yeah, so the idea would be to take that boat barn, the storage barn, and put it up by our maintenance complex
Oh, okay.
on the hill up there, out of the way where public isn't even over there.
Okay.
And then that way this would open up, I mean, in this part, that's all we have left really as far as prime real estate to do anything. Most of it's nature preserve, so that barn takes up, and it's not a very good looking barn to have in the middle of such a beautiful area, so we do need the storage, but we would like to have it in another location. And I think that where the old house used to be, most of you that have been on the board for a long time know where the old house was, that would be where that would end up.
There's no boats in it. When the Girl Scouts had the Cape, that was their boat barn
Yeah.
to go out on the pond. So right now it's just storage for the maintenance.
Some names down there.
Yeah.
But if the park staff can dismantle the gazebo from downtown,
I remember that.
put it back together,
Yeah.
I think they can handle it.
Yeah,
It's a sort of,
great, thank you.
okay, any other questions on that? Yeah, yes.
The estimated cost on these things, I mean, if you did these numbers a year, 2 years ago, they would have been 2/3 or half. I mean, are these today's dollars or they got inflation?
It's our best guess. I mean, Jeremy and with Don and maintenance, Don go through. Jeremy has a good feel for what it is. I'm overlooking his numbers because I kind of have a feel as well. And it's like, that's a tad low, that may be a little high. But you never know. I mean,
And the thing about these plans is that those are just estimates. It's not like we're saying, okay, this is what it's going to cost, and that's all we can get approved for. If we go to the DNR, the Land and Water Conservation Fund, and put in for this grant, it may very well be a lot more than what we estimated, but that's okay. It's just, it has to be in your plan.
Gotcha.
It's more of a line item in your plan.
it's a planning tool, just like the playgrounds here. We had it all planned out, Jeremy, $350,000 with the preliminary talks with the playground vendors, everything else. By the time all the decks got lined up, all right, let's sign the dotted line. Well, so, materials went up, labor went up another 40 grand. So we go scrambling. It might have gone down 20 grand. I mean, but yeah. Yeah. But that's the beauty of this. We have a roadmap of what our intent is.
Sure.
Just like the picnic shelter at Bloom. We think we're going to be ready for it in 2026. I think, this summer, you may see a little bit of increase, but I think next year, in 2024, 2023, 2024, you're going to have a real good idea that once people find out there's a nice shelter there, there's a playground, a parking lot, and a restroom, the people for rentals that can't get over here or learn may be starting to go there. So we're going to watch the rentals, and that may have to change in the plan. But we can see if we have to move it, what does that impact?
Sure.
And this is also a good planning tool with Jeremy and his partners out there, the foundation, the council, and everyone else, the endowment with the foundation, and Coolidge, and look at where things need to fall. And it may come back that the Park Foundation said, well, wait, we got that money at the endowment in an investment right now. We can't help you in 2023, but we can release the money in 2024. Fine. going to the council, we say, well, wait a minute, we got the highway department, we got this that we need to work with, can we flip-flop this project? Yeah, this is just a guide to help everybody. And hopefully the numbers are reasonable that it'll put us in the ball.
In all, just guesses on where the funding might come from. I mean, it might be that the council says, you know, we don't have it. So then we can always go look for, we still want to do it, right? So we can always go look for other places and try to, you know, get that project done still. So.
And it doesn't mean that if something comes up and we get a windfall or something happens, how do we absorb that into the action plan? I mean, I don't want another windstorm to go through Lord, take down all the trees and knock stuff down, but we can see if something comes up, either being something we have to deal with or a windfall, how does that fit into the plan? So that's all identified in the plan. And what made this plan a little bit easier to do this year was the last 5 years, Jeremy and his staff says, okay, we got, what would have been, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22?
Yeah.
So when they finished 2018, they kind of penciled in what was going to happen in 2023. And when 2019 was done, they penciled in 2024. So, or maybe something didn't get done, so we're going to move that to 2020 because we didn't get it done in 2018. So there's always a working document so we can see what's happening. So, okay. The second half of the action plan that Jeremy handed out was the maintenance. We've been working with Park Department and done this over the last several action plans, is pull the maintenance items out of the action plan. Because it bogs it down and makes it real long and lengthy. Because if you look at the maintenance plan, it's 2-3 times longer than the action plan. But it's things like we gotta replace the roof, we gotta do the siding, we gotta seal coat this, we gotta do that, we gotta put down new safety surfacing at the playgrounds. And again, by putting that out in the years and spacing things out, we can see how it can be done, and with the park staff doing a lot of the work. And also working with the partners for funding all that. So we pull that out separate so we can see just how we're going to maintain our parks. Because that's just as important as the new projects. Because if we don't re-roof that shelter or something, at some point it's like tear it down and let's build a new one. Proper maintenance, you'll get life out of all these facilities. So by doing that separate, it also helps the park staff and the maintenance to plan ahead both budget and man hours of what needs to be done with all that. And again, if you look at the summary at the last page, 75 I guess is at the bottom, the total maintenance is $533,000, so $500,000. So we're not talking about a lot of money as we are with $5 million in improvements. But out of that $533,000, only $100,300 is part of budget. Only 20% of the maintenance we're asking to go in our annual budgets. The other 80% is working with endowments, Cool Spring, and other funding sources that will help us with that. So again, when you look at this being over $5.5 million over the next 5 years, it would be $104,800 is all that's coming out of the park budget, hopefully. So I mean, Jeremy's done a great job with the staff looking at these projects, especially on the maintenance, because that's a lot of the maintenance is in-house, but you're very fortunate to have two endowment funds and Cool Springs to help. They're not big ticket items, but you know, $5,000 here to help that, another $3,000 here, it adds up. So we're only talking, you know, $100,000 a year, $533 for 5 years, for the maintenance of all the parks, just to keep things in good condition. So those are the two plans. Give you an if you have questions on maintenance, you can skip Jeremy. I mean, I just look at it to make sure that things are kind of balanced a little bit. It's like we're not doing it all in 1 year or something, but they know what needs to be done, when it needs to be done. So The next step after this is to take any comments. So if you're typically like me, you go home after the meeting, it's like, I forgot to ask this question. Get a hold of Jeremy within a week, because what we're going to do then after that, we're going to go through these numbers and double check the numbers, make sure we're good on the costing, and then we're going to prepare the actual draft of the 5-year budget of how all this action plan is going to fit. Now, $104,800 will be in the park budget. All these other items will not be in the park budget because we're not asking the council to fund them. But we want to show that there's other things in the park budget, gasoline, propane, and everything else that we have to deal with. So we're going to bring back next month the draft of the 5-year budget of just what it would be to implement this plan, to go through with that.
That's kind of in that, the back part of that thing that I handed out second is the budget. You can kind of see how that works, but we'll have a final draft of that.
We put the critical eye to the action plan, but we didn't put the critical eye to the budget yet. So we want to make sure the action plan looks good, and then we can fine tune the budget numbers. So to give you an idea of what's happening, next month, October 4th, the meeting will be the proposed budget. And then you don't have a meeting in November, but on December 6th, the next park board meeting, we're planning to bring back the entire draft of the master plan. So you'll be able to see the whole plan, just not bits and pieces. At that meeting, we'll probably ask permission to send it to the DNR. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just if we're missing anything, when we get the letter back from DNR says, well, you need this, this, this. I've seen plans go in with a whole bunch missing because they had to get in by the deadline. They just get a longer letter. But we have till April 15th to make all the final changes. So even though we present it December 6th, we like to get it in early before everyone else. The deadline is January 15th. So if we get ours in a month early, we'll get ours back quicker. And then we have time in January and February to clean it up, make the changes. So the intent is maybe at the February 7th park board is that the master plan is done, reviewed, all the corrections are made. Possibly you can have the adoption. If not, we got March 7th as a backup. We don't have to do it in February. We get adopted in March. If maybe something came up and got another windfall or a giant snowstorm or whatever, we have time. So that's what you can expect. The next 2 meetings is next month you'll have the budget, and in December you'll see the whole draft. And then we have over the holidays to review that draft. So you'll have time to review that draft as well, at the same time as you are reviewing it. And then we just pull it all together. So that's the intent.
Okay. Any questions with that? John? Very good.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. And just get anything to Jeremy by next week if possible, because then we're going to start crunching numbers. But again, nothing's cast in stone until April 15th. And after April 15th, if we find an adjustment, because we got that windfall, we do an amendment to the master plan, send it to the DNR. The master plan, if we have it in the master plan, that makes it eligible for grant funding on those projects. So maybe we missed something, and we want to say, oh, we can do that with a grant. Let's amend the master plan, set it down, and it's eligible for the grant. So nothing's ever final. And this changes every year. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pat. Public comment.
Good afternoon, everyone. Joe Bean, decided to Village Support County Commissioner. I want to thank you all for your continuing hard work and perseverance, especially the Park Department folks. I got to visit Seabrook Woods earlier last week, the day after it opened, and excellent little property. It was really nice walk out there, so looking forward to the grand opening there and some future plans we'll discuss here today, so keep up the great work.
Okay. Other public comment? No? Okay. Here we go, public comment, board and staff comments.
I did forget to mention, so I gave you the Cedar Woods thing that the sign that's going to go up. I'm also doing 2 big ones, like 3 foot by 4 foot signs out of Bloom. One will go in the restroom and one in the restroom over the bathroom restroom, so that it's got the map of the property and then you are here, you know, kind of like here. So I think this will be a big help for people. Bloom is really spread out, you know, and people kind of get out there and think, boy, I didn't realize this was an out and back. So I think this will be helpful for people, even though there's maps out there. I think if they see these will be a big help. So Hawkins Print Shop is working on getting those.
Great.
Very nice.
And I know a lot of times people then will take a photo of this before they go off on the trail.
That's what I was thinking with phones. It's an easy thing to do now. So we have them all on our website, so people can look on there. But you know how it is, we don't think if you get kind of turned around.
Yeah. Excellent.
Okay. Very good. Any other staff and board comments? I just have one. My book has been sent to the editor.
Fantastic.
Hopefully within about 2 weeks, it should be available on Amazon.
Oh, that's exciting.
I'm not holding my breath, just so you know. But, Mary helped me download an app so that I could actually get it reviewed and sent to the publisher. So, any other staff comments, board comments? Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor? Ayes have it. The meeting is adjourned.